Hi, it's Daniel from CME, and I'm joined today with Andy Littlecott of Vizabl. And the aim of this video is to give you a little bit more insight and examples of how CME is bringing value to individuals, teams, and organisations through our reseller community. So thanks for joining us, Andy.
Pleasure.
So Andy, with over 30 years experience, leading teams, consulting teams to perform best of their abilities through the marine sector, engineering, construction. You've got a lot of experience to bring to the table, haven't you? Can you first tell us a little bit more about Vizabl and the work that you currently do?
We work with organisations to help them embark on their journey to eliminate injury, transform safety, become more productive, gain competitive edge, have their people be engaged in what they do.
Fantastic. And why did you choose to use CME as a tool alongside your current solutions for clients?
Okay, so I didn't go hunting for CME. I didn't have at the time any interest in using any tool like that at all. I had some experience with Myers-Briggs, but somebody introduced me to their report on CME, and I read it, and I knew it quite well, and it just blew me away.
Right. So with regards to your area of expertise, the reports that you're providing for them as well, when it comes to pitching to clients,
yep.
How do you pitch CME, and what are some of the challenges you face as
well? So really that has to be driven by how the approach was made in the first place. So if an organisation contacts me that I'm not currently working with, and the first thing I hear is we have a safety issue, or, and also the tone and the nature of how they express that, if their conversation is predominantly using the word safety and it's about statistics, that tells me one thing. If they're telling me, if it in a much more personal way, that they're hurting people and they want to stop hurting people, then that tells me something else about how they currently relate to their people and looking after them. So I would direct the conversation in a particular way, like I say, depending on the nature of the initial inquiry. So you can quickly see whether this is a problem that they want to fix because it's impacting on their how clients perceive them, and it's impacting on their ability to get work. Again, it tells me something about what's driving the inquiry. And of course, who's in the room when I get there? Are they financially based decision makers that are in the room? Is it the MD? Is it the safety person? Because they will all have, they will all be coming from a slightly different position themselves. But when they can see actually that safety, performance, having people be engaged in what they do, having people understand the drivers for certain behaviours, not just in themselves, but recognising those behaviours in others, they can see that all of those things are absolutely inextricably linked. And so, whilst it might begin as a safety conversation, that shift in paradigm is going to deliver so much more than just more people going home safe to their families. And I often come back to the Gallup report that really clearly sets out the benefits of having people be engaged in what they do, because those organisations that are in that upper quartile of engagement have 70% less safety incidents in the organisation. Well, that's without the safety conversation. So, and they're 15% more profitable and 21%, 20%-ish more efficient, more productive for them than their competitors, just through having people be more engaged in what they do. The organisations that I was working with at the time, and I showed them my report, and I showed them some of the generic reports that you provided, and they were buying into it very, very quickly. They saw the potential, not just for them as a leadership team, but for some of their supervisory roles out on construction sites.
And what benefits are your clients having in using CME?
Begins a whole new conversation that they weren't having before. And I think that bringing in the colour context, if you like, just makes it so much more of a conversation that can be kept alive. It appeals to many levels in an organisation, and again, just to be able to have a conversation about who I am, how I show up, how you show up, and how we adapt our conversation, because we pick this bag up that is our at work colour profile. When we arrive at work in the morning, we put it back down again when we go home, and be a different person. And it's just bringing some clarity and some visibility to that for people, which just makes such a massive difference.
So with regards to the whole range of different reports which CME can provide, which ones do you use most commonly and why?
Okay, so I use the Safety Leadership Report, or the Safety Report, which might sound like a bit of a contradiction, because whilst most of what I do is aimed and directed at having people go home safe to their families every day, particularly in construction, an environment where one person a week loses their life in construction. But I do believe that a great environment around safety and having people and organisations be able to send employees home safe every day is absolutely nothing to do with safety. So I do try and avoid using the safety word. But what it does do is create that connection for people between this report that's opening a window for me to be able to see myself, but it also creates some safety context for me that maybe would otherwise be missing. So if it's a change program or a shift in the paradigm that we're aiming to create within an organisation, it's essential that they see how the impact that I'm having personally, or who I could be in myself, that would create that shift.
With regards to some of the benefits your clients are seeing, can you say a little bit more about what they say about CME and the impacts that's bringing?
Oh, okay. So what I like to do with organisations is differentiate between the initial enthusiasm and when they begin to create a long-term shift in that paradigm that's going to lead to culture being different in the organisation. Because depending on where an organisation starts from, of course, and what the current experience of their people is, when you begin to work with something like CME, it creates such an immediate impact for people. It is so different to maybe something that they've ever done before, which is why I like to do it at supervisory level, because it just has a fantastic impact on the people. And of course, it then creates an expectation, and it creates a level of enthusiasm that gives immediate change. And if you're not careful, you can interpret that immediate change as being, we've cracked it, right? We've solved the problem, and people begin to sort of declare victory in the journey, and they begin to back off. But of course, the journey is never ending. There's always tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. So once we see that this is just the beginning of the journey, and it's there to begin a conversation for people, and when the colour conversation becomes an everyday conversation, not just with people out on site. And I'm sorry to keep coming back to the construction context, but that's where I spend most of my time. But not just out on site, but you begin to see the leadership in their engagement conversations when they're out on site talk about how has colour helped you in what you currently do, and how you engage with people, and how you understand why maybe a client might want something done in that particular way, or why the client or the safety manager is getting frustrated about a particular situation. When we begin to understand why that person is being the way he is, then we can adapt our own being, if you like, in order to take that forward in a productive way, rather than maybe traditionally that the judgment around being right and being wrong.
So, Andy, what are some of the practical ways that you use CME with your clients?
So, the leadership will have stated what the future looks like for them in terms of injury or the elimination of injury, or this is where we're going, this is what we're committed to, and this is where we're going to take you, the broader organisation. So I would put it into that context in the morning. I would make this a whole day event rather than just the 3 hours that are required for the CE reports. So one of the leaders in the organisation would also introduce. They would already have had their report. They would have had conversations with me and with each other, so they can share some of what they've learned about themselves and share how they show up for people when they recognise they show up for people, and also recognise that they have to change. So it begins there, and of course that helps the people in the room begin to see the leadership a little bit differently before they then see themselves a little bit differently, because they need to see the experience that they create. So that's when we reveal the reports in the afternoon after the context, and I use exercises. I use the cards a lot. The cards really help people. We use humour. It has to be fun, and it is fun. The exercises that you've given during the activator day are really great. I tend to stick to the tried and tested ones that I know are going to work, the ones that raise the energy in the room. I might miss one or two out occasionally if I can see that they've really got it and they want to move on, and they want to see their reports, they want to get working with their reports, then I might cut some of these things short a little bit. But just lining people up against the wall and asking them to get themselves in order of introvertedness, or rather reflectiveness, and extrovertedness is just a great conversation in itself, because it just brings out humour, and they can have some fun, and they get in the banter. There's one thing that really drives the team ethic on the construction sites in particular, is the banter. And so I know how important it is to make sure that we maintain that banter and that humour and that fun during the afternoon session.
It makes CE such a palatable and, like you said, a positive experience.
It does, and in my experience, it might sound a little bit daunting to start with, to sit down and share some aspects of their report with somebody else in the room. But once they've done it once, I do get quite a lot of feedback at the end saying how useful it is to be able to sit down and talk to somebody about how they show up and what they can learn.
So Andy, thanks. It's been really informative understanding how you bring value to organisations through CME. So thank you for all the insight and data today.
That's a pleasure, and thanks for the opportunity to use CME. It's made a massive difference for me and for clients. It's really useful.